On behalf of Crosscheck Media and Biz Talk Today TV, welcome everyone to The Money Path. I am your host, Todd Schoenberger, and joining me today is Jessica Andrews. She is the General Manager of Family Office and Multifamily Offices at Brighton Jones. Jessica, happy holidays and welcome to the program. I was going through your background, very dynamic. You have a strong career history. I'm just curious, can you walk the audience maybe through your professional journey and what really attracted you to Brighton Jones?
Yeah, hi Todd. Thanks for having me on. So happy to be here. The last 20 years I have been working with families with significant wealth in the ultra high net worth space. And I have loved working also for families who own private businesses. So I've done everything from teaching some of the wealthiest kids around Seattle about money, and have worked with family offices, have worked on dynamic estate planning, helping prepare that next generation to inherit wealth. And I spent a 7 year stint in senior housing, which I loved, but it really working for families again, ultra high net worth families who are also doing planning for their whole family. And then about 7 years ago, I started a mental health company with my best friend. So a big passion of mine is helping people with their mental health and kind of see it as part of their whole wellness routine. She runs it. She's a therapist. I'm behind the scenes on the business side. So that world kind of weaves into what I do at Brighton Jones as well, of making sure that people are feeling, that feeling fulfilled and having that alignment in their life, not only their money plus their time and resources, and really kind of marrying all that up. So, gosh. I also have worked, was the president of a trust company for about 6 years. I did that right before joining Brighton Jones. And this year I got to join Brighton Jones. And I am so happy to be here. The team is wonderful. The clients we serve are incredible. And I get to specialize in working with our family office group. So we've served families with typically 30 million or more in assets in this group. And so we have about 150 families we're serving in that segment. And yeah, it's really dynamic, fun, interesting work.
Well, that is outstanding. Brighton Jones is really they're first class, obviously, and just a sensational firm. And I know that there are a lot of avenues that they continue to really become really in the frontier of it. And I know that you're part of that as well. So I have to ask you, when you're speaking to these high net worth families, and you mentioned that you speak to children, how are the dynamics different when it comes to how affluent families are dealing with education amongst, say, children, teens, and young adults?
Yeah, gosh, it's when you have significant wealth, you are moving from into a different mindset where we like to call it an abundance mindset, where you have more than you ever could imagine you had, and maybe more than you even know what to do with. And so these families are trying to figure out how to be good stewards of their wealth. And I define stewardship as really knowing who they are, what they stand for, and what they believe in. So they're thinking long term, and they're balancing their resources wisely. And we also like to zoom out and say, okay, wealth isn't just about your money. Wealth is beyond financial assets. It's about the family's reputation, their traditions, their relationships. And so we zoom out on that conversation, and we want to make sure that we're providing conversations and guidance and a framework where they can grow their unity, grow their alignment, and help launch that next gen. I think, you know, parents come to me, especially within this wealth segment, and go, gosh, I'm really nervous about what wealth could do to my kids. Like the potential harms this could be. We've seen it. We've seen it in the news. We see it, we know people where it's addiction or even just lack of motivation. And they say, hey, I don't want my kid to be unmotivated. I don't want there to be, a low tolerance for frustration. Instead, they want to launch next gen who are thriving and grounded and productive and able to lead an independent life. And so we come alongside those families and help them do that. And so we want them to feel empowered. We want them to be able to overcome setbacks. And in the beginning, when the kids are really young, this is very parent-led. But as the kids grow in their teenage years, and we can do a lot in their 20s and 30s, we really come alongside next gen and help them thrive.
So, give me, because I imagine that's the value proposition of Brighton Jones. You're speaking to these affluent families, and then you're saying, look, we can actually help you with that next gen.
Yeah.
And really, so do you sit down with them individually? Are you all at the conference table? I mean, kind of walk us through that process.
Yeah, we have a whole family engagement framework and we have a couple components to it. One is where we're focusing on the family and actually working on, that's through family meetings, it's through discussions about their values, creating a family wealth purpose statement. And we're really getting to know the family and aligning the family on let's open up communication and talk about what does our wealth mean and what are we doing with it? Are we going to go make the world a better place? Are we building a family business? And so we need to preserve it. Do we need to, are we giving it away to the next gen? And we have full, robust conversations on that. But then the other piece is actually just preparing the next gen to launch. And that's everything from financial literacy what's a private investment? What does it mean to what do taxes mean? What does estate planning mean? We go into the actual financial literacy piece, but then we also go into the softer side of, hey, oftentimes people with significant wealth or children from families with significant wealth, they have a lot of options. So they can kind of go do anything. And sometimes that can feel like a burden to the next gen. I'm going, I don't even know where to begin. And so we do some career
Huh.
counseling with them. We have conversations with them about how to stay grounded and how to stay mindful in their role as next gen. And so we really are working with the whole person. And we do customized roadmaps every year. We sit down with that next gen and go, all right, what do you want to work on this year? Because this is a year by year process. It's a marathon. And so if we can make progress year over year, that is what I've seen produces the best results for families. So it's not, and these kids have busy lives. They're in college or they're getting started in their careers. And so we can't, make this day in and day out where they're sitting with us working on this. But we set up a program for every year. They make progress little by little, and they have goals, and then we meet those goals.
Have you ever experienced a situation where you're dealing with that next gen and
Mhm.
there's a feeling of entitlement? Do you find it where you and your colleagues are frustrated, but you can't really show it because these people are your clients? How do you handle that? And I mean, do you just try to categorize it in your mind that, okay, I'm dealing with a client, I'm providing a service, but these kids are never going to get it? Do you ever have that feeling?
Yeah, sometimes I think I try to lead with compassion because there's a reason they're like that. And sometimes, and curiosity, I want to know their story and figure out, okay, what's driving this? 9 times out of 10, they want to do a good job and they just don't know how. So stewardship and financial responsibility has to be taught. It's not inherited. Kids don't wake up knowing how to be rich and knowing how to have knowing how to be a second gen or third gen. They just don't. And so for me, it's about, yes, there's some times where I'm like, okay, that's a ridiculous ask. But it's instead of sharing that with them, it's all right, let's zoom out, provide context, help you understand what's actually normal, and help reframe for you. So again, I try to lead with compassion and curiosity, and that usually works.
That's nice. So, give me an idea. Your background. You started the mental health entity with a friend and a colleague, and then you put that together, and that's thriving. I am curious though, because our audience, we have a number of people that come from high net worth families to watch our program. So I'm sure they're on the edge of their seats wondering how that intersects with when it comes to mental health and financial decision making. How do you bridge the gap, I suppose?
Yeah, again, we see at Brighton Jones, we see families and individuals as like as a whole person. It's so important to not just focus on the money piece. we have to see them, and like I said earlier, approach them with curiosity and compassion and wanting to um, help them thrive in their life. We talk a lot about thriving at Brighton Jones, and clients and team members living their richer life. We have this amazing program that was developed far before when I came here, but it so resonated with me. And it's called our MESI program, MESI. And that stands for Mindful, Emotional, and Social Intelligence. And it's
Hmm.
our mental fitness program. And at its core, it helps us and our clients show up more intentionally in life and with our financial decisions. So mindfulness is all about perspective and focus on helping clients slow down and focus on responses instead of reactions. The emotional intelligence piece is critical. And as we all know, money often carries unspoken emotions, whether that's fear or shame or pressure, or there's oftentimes in our client base, there can be some guilt around the money that they have. Um, so we got to acknowledge those emotions. We actually have to talk about them and say, yeah, I do, so and so does feel guilty. How does that show up for you? Okay, well, let's also talk about what it means to have a healthy relationship with money and how it can be a tool in life. And there is a burden that comes with significant wealth, and there is opportunity. And so we have to acknowledge both. And we have a lot of conversation around that about, all right, this means we get to go do some really cool things that other people don't have the opportunity to do. And it means that we're sitting in family meetings and planning things that other families don't have to go do. And so that's that emotional intelligence piece is helping families relate or individuals and families relate to their money. And then that social intelligence piece is helping them relate to each other, which is, again, money dynamics can be tricky with families, especially when there's significant wealth and there's heavy expectations. Sometimes Gen 1 can have heavy expectations of Gen 2. Or even future generations of, I scraped this money together. I built this. I worked hard building whatever. And then do you really appreciate it? And there's dynamics that can come out. And so we have to do a lot of work with future gens of, hey, what does it mean to be an inheritor? And what does that actually like? What do you do with that? And then also, how do you show up in your family and do a good job and be a good steward and acknowledge what was built and honor the legacy while also creating your own path and making it yours. So there's so many dynamics here, but you have to weave in the mental health and the emotional health to all of these conversations in order to be successful with these families.
So is Brighton Jones, I know you're working with the first generational wealth, the family that
Mhm.
would really started the business, it took off, and now they have children or therefore grandchildren. Are you also working with families that are more established? May have been they might be on their third generation of this wealth and this affluence.
Yeah,
Affluent, I mean.
we have both but our primary client base in our family office is typically first gen passing to second gen. Although in my career I've seen it all. So I've worked with fourth, fifth gen as well. So yeah.
Interesting. So, how do you do that? I mean, because I'm trying to give the audience, paint the picture for them to understand this. You're speaking to the next gen kid, and they feel guilty, and they're like, I can't believe I have all this money. What am I going to do? They have no interest in the business, but their parents want them to be interested in the business. I mean, is it a series of meetings, conversations? Do you have to go there and handhold them? I mean, and what happens when the child says they just put their hands up, say, I don't want anything to do with it? How do you actually have that conversation with that first generation parent to say, okay, your kid just doesn't want to be involved?
Yeah, that happens for sure. There's times where first gen really wants something for their kid and really wants them to be involved, especially when it comes to family businesses. I've seen that over and over again is they'd like them to run it just like they did and like follow in mom and dad's footsteps or whoever built it. And that just isn't always the case. Honestly, in my experience, very few end up doing that as well as first gen. And so it's about walking through a process of how to pass on a family business. and bring and what does it look like to allow the next gen to be owners and not operators. And we have a nice distinguishing conversation of, all right, we're going to teach them how to be great owners, but we're not going to teach them how to be operators because they have no desire for it. And if they don't want it, then you don't want them to be operators. And here's all the reasons why. So yes, it's multiple conversations with family members and all around. So you'll sit down with the next gen, talk through it, and then oftentimes we can help create a board for that family, and help create governance structures for that family where they've never needed it before, but they'll need it going forward because the owners won't be the operators. It's not, tied into one. So yes, many, many conversations and then process. And the process often involves how do we take your family to be a little bit more third party oriented, and it can still be a family business. It can still be owned, and what decisions should remain with the family versus how do you hire a top tier operator to actually run that business day to day?
So it would probably be easier for Brighton Jones, if the next gen was all on board. Kind of like the
Oh
show
yeah.
Succession. They're on board. They
Yeah.
want to be the actual, top of the heap.
Yeah, although I don't really want those succession kids being my clients. That's not the dream
I'm sure of that.
situation. They're a hot mess. But yeah, that's always really fun when there's one or two that are as capable or more capable than the wealth creator and they're all in and they have a vision. I've worked with families like that before, and that's really fun work. It's interesting to see them put their own stamp on it. And that's different than working with a family who's just relying on the trust to get their distribution every month so they can, go on their next vacation. Those are very two different clients. And so, as you can imagine, the one that is wanting to engage and take the family's wealth to the next level, that's interesting. That's fun.
So what's going to matter most, say over the next decade, when you have, I mean, Brighton Jones will continue to expand its high net worth services. I'm sure there'll be some other new products or new avenues that still have yet to be explored, but I'm sure you guys will be front and center with them. So what is going to matter most though, as people try to continue to build wealth, but also try to make sure everybody is mentally there?
Yeah, I think it continues to come back to, are we seeing our clients as a whole person? Do we understand our client base and what they want? Brighton Jones really led with kind of wealth alignment and aligning your time and your money with your passions and helping clients thrive. So I think we have to double down on that. And are having tons of conversations internally about how do we do that? What do we do for the next 10 years? To make sure clients really thrive and we meet them where they're at. And yes, we absolutely have to nail the money piece, right? We have to be great wealth managers, but then we also get to be great just advisors and companions with our clients to help them on their journey of life. And where do we meet them? How do we meet them where they're at? So I think that's going to be the fun, interesting challenge over the next 10 years.
Yeah, that's a great approach. I could see that Brighton Jones being that advocate. That makes sense. Just quickly, I just want to know so if you're a single family office, what's the minimum as far as assets till you can actually work with Brighton Jones?
So our multifamily office serves families with 30 million to 100 million.
Okay.
And that is a base suite of services. And then you can add on services over time. And our single family office typically starts with families with 100 million or more.
100 million
And
more.
that's where you get everything. And we're doing everything for you.
That's great. That's great. Well, Jessica, I love Brighton Jones. I know there's
Oh, thank
so
you.
much to offer there. You guys have dozens of offices around the country as well. So I encourage the audience to take a look and see how they can work with Brighton Jones. So, Jessica, thank you so much for joining me today on the Money Path. I love to continue the conversation in the new year. I do wish you and yours a happy holiday season.
Thank you, Todd. It's an honor to be here and happy holidays.
Thank you. So, on behalf of Jessica Andrews, I am Todd Schoenberger. Thank you once again for joining us on the Money Path. We'll catch you next time. Take care.
Access real-time data and intelligent analytics exactly when you need them. Get the right data at the right time. Learn more at quotemedia.com.